Third speaker is Professor Minu Ipe from another successful story of university education, Arizona State University from States. Please come to forward. Please welcome Dr. Ipe.
I'm on now. I won't make you get up because Ken made you do that. So hopefully everybody is awake and ready. I know this is the afternoon session, so it's a little hard to listen as much as we all have been listening. But here we are then with ASU. So I'm going to start the same way that everybody did before me, because we cannot talk about a university or innovation in higher education without an understanding of the context in which we exist. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about the world in which we exist as Arizona State University and the opportunities and the challenges in this world. Access is a big, important part of how we think about higher education and look at the capacity that we need to be prepared for by 2040. Does global higher education have the capacity to meet that kind of demand? The answer today is no, but we will have to figure something out to be able to meet the needs of young learners, lifelong learners everywhere on the planet. Now, my colleagues, previous speakers have addressed the changes in workforce, the kinds of skills that people need to be successful. Minister Kim talked about longevity and people needing to work long. So it's longer work careers and different kinds of skill sets. This is somewhat scary because what higher education is expected to do is we have to prepare people for jobs, but we don't even know what those jobs are. How are we going to organize ourselves to make that happen? But it isn't just what's happening with higher education and careers that we need to be thinking about. We need to think about this broader context in which we all exist as institutions. There are social shifts. People are living longer, as we have recognized. And so what can higher education do to support individuals who live long to have productive lives, healthy lives? Climate change creates a lot of different opportunities and challenges. How are we going to respond? How are we going to prepare our students and future generations to respond to these challenges? There are issues of health. Cancer is just one statistic. We have very formidable challenges to deal with as the human species. What is the role of higher education institutions in helping to advance some of these ideas? We have a lot of people that we will need to be able to feed. Compounded with climate change and other issues, we have to come up with some new ways of being able to serve the needs of the planet. And then there are also other socioeconomic issues, issues related to parity and the role of gender pay, for example. So we exist in this really complex environment. So here is a question for all of you. How many of you are excited about the future? Oh, this is not good at all. Kind of, yeah. So halfway up, we are excited, some people. So what is it? Where is everybody else? Are you worried about the future? You're not worried. Are you afraid of what is to come? No. So, but we have to figure out how we're going to deal with these formidable challenges. So the key question then is, what role will institutions of higher education play in this really complex, very quickly evolving environment? And how are we going to organize ourselves to respond effectively? So then I come to the story of ASU, because this is the context in which we live. To start with our story, there are two fundamental things that we made a shift in as we transitioned to the institution that we are today. First is a shift in our design logic. And when we talk about design logic, we mean we made a shift in redefining what an institution of higher education should be and could be. moving away from an elite institution that teaches a few students, disassociated from society, removed from society. We are an institution that believes in providing access to education for as many students as are eligible to go to higher education. So there is a shift in that design logic of who we are and who we should be. The second shift is a mindset shift. It is a move away from what we should be, what we have been, what higher education has always done, to what could be. Opening up possibilities for all kinds of innovation and change. So that's really at the foundation of our story, the shift in our design logic and the shift in this mindset. So let me give you some examples of how we actually got there. We start with sort of redefining the purpose of the university. ASU has a charter. It is sort of a purpose document. It defines who we are and who we aspire to be. And what is interesting in this is that, of course, we're a public research university, but we are measured not by whom we exclude, but by whom we include and how they succeed. That is a significant shift in direction, because a lot of institutions, primarily in the United States, have been moving in the other direction, to be more elite, to be more exclusive, because that moves you up in the rankings and you feel good about who you are. And what we are saying is that as a public institution, our job is to educate as many students as possible, as many learners as possible who are eligible to come to the university. But then not just get them in through the door, to make sure that they are successful both within the institution and then beyond. We want to advance research and discovery of public value. We are not suggesting that we should not be doing basic research. Of course we must. But how can we push as much of the knowledge as we create outside of the institution, working to actually solve real-world problems? And then the third piece is a rather bold statement. We assume fundamental responsibility for the economic, social, cultural, and overall health of the communities in which we engage. It is a promise to the people that we work with that we will not be separate from institutions, we will not be separate from the community, we will work within and with partners to advance our goals. So ASU's charter is supported by 8 design aspirations. These are sort of ways of thinking that guide our leaders as they make decisions. And I don't want to go through each of these items, but you get a sense of how we are translating the design logic into decision-making capabilities for our leaders. So the charter and the design aspirations serve as a foundational design logic set, if you will. And so I want to spend the next couple of minutes talking about some examples of how this charter and these aspirations actually manifest themselves in action. So the first part of our charter talked about access and student success. And so in 16 years, we have more than doubled the students we have at the institution. That was our promise to our state as a public institution, but that is also a goal we set for ourselves in our charter. So how did we actually get there, and what does this increase in enrollment really look like? We are very proud of the fact that part of that increase in enrollment came from first-generation students. Students whose parents never went to university, who did not have a history in their families of people going to college. Students who never thought college was for them. How do you do that? You do that by not waiting for students to come to you. You go to students. We go to the communities. We run programs, for example, for Hispanic mothers and daughters. Because children don't make decisions about these kinds of things without parental support. But if parents don't understand what the university offers, if parents don't understand how to navigate the system, they're not going to get their kids there. So we go into the communities, we go into schools, really expanding the way people can think about higher education and what ASU is like. We also do it by making the university accessible for those who historically have been unable to go. So if you look at the gold bars, you can see that we've increased the numbers of students from very, very low income backgrounds. Historically, socioeconomic status determined whether you went to college or not. For us, that was a challenge we needed to overcome because we fundamentally believe that every human being has the capacity to learn. We're not saying everybody necessarily should go to college, but if you have the capacity to learn and you have the desire to go to college, tuition should not be the barrier. Your family's income should not be the barrier. The system should make it possible for you to go there. So some examples then of how we contribute to student success. Our 4-year graduation rate is up. We meticulously track every student's progress. We have a suite of tools called e-advisor that tracks students from the point of entry to the point of graduation. We know when somebody is mid-semester, if we feel like they are not going to be successful in a course, the system flags the student gets connected to an advisor, somebody in the system is stepping in to understand what is going on. Sometimes it's a family health issue. Sometimes it's a financial issue. Sometimes it's a mental health issue. But the sooner we find the problem, the sooner we are able to respond. We have approximately 50,000 online students. And so this is an investment we made several years ago in recognizing that bringing everybody to the physical campus is not really going to be the future of higher education. We need to be able to take learning to where people are. Because a lot of our students are not the traditional university student. They are not all in that 18 to 22 age range. A lot of our students are parents. A lot of our students are working adults who cannot quit their jobs and come to university. So we make it possible for us to go to them. We also pay close attention to what these students are doing when they are here on campus with us or online. An example of that is the investment in entrepreneurial projects, preparing students for that workforce of tomorrow, preparing students for companies like Dassault who might find them attractive because they have learned problem solving. They've actually translated ideas into action. And many of them are already successful even before they have left the institution. We also pay attention to what happens with jobs, especially because we are bringing in students who are first-generation college goers, low socioeconomic status. They have to find jobs at the end of the college experience. Otherwise, they have invested a lot of time and energy into something that doesn't pay back. A piece that I want to highlight is the flexibility in the curriculum. We offer 830 degree programs. Sounds like a lot. We think it's not enough. Again, preparing for that future that we don't know, we want to offer as many combinations as possible. So students can major in multiple areas. They can major in something, minor in something else, major in something, minor in something else, and take certificates in a whole series of other things, to create as much flexibility as we possibly can to set our students up for success. So if I had to summarize our approach, I'd say we innovate in every way. Because none of the ideas in our charter lend themselves to continuing to do what we already do or what we have done. If we continue doing that, we would make incremental adjustments. But to meet the ideals of our charter, to provide access to as many students as possible and set them up for success, we have to keep reinventing what we are doing, redesigning what we are doing. So digital innovations, not just for online, but we work with several hundred technology companies to bring technologies into the classroom. So these companies get to test their ideas in our classrooms as a way of developing and advancing really quickly while our students take advantage of these new innovations. We lower barriers to entry. We make it possible for students to get financial aid when they need to. We have a chat bot. This is so interesting. We found that students who are applying to university, they're really intimidated at calling the universities to ask questions about their application. They're afraid of sounding stupid and asking questions that they think are silly. So we have a chatbot now that answers their questions. 70% increase in the kinds of questions that the admissions office is getting, and the chatbot is able to respond in, I would say, a very friendly way. And so it really is looking at every way we can reduce barriers to coming to the institution. ASU runs 11 schools. Part of what we identified in our state is that the primary and secondary education is not great. We are amongst the lowest ranked in the United States. So it is not enough for us to worry about the students who come to us. We have to worry about how they are being prepared on their way to us. So we run 11 schools, and now we have a digital high school that is available to anybody really from anywhere. We engage partners who share our mission. So this is an example of a Starbucks College Achievement Plan. So ASU works with Starbucks to provide free education for Starbucks employees. So Starbucks and ASU combine resources to make this happen. The goal is to get to 25,000 employees by 2025. We have 12,000 employees currently enrolled at ASU. This is a way of partnering with a giant corporation to say, how can we make education available for somebody who may never have been an ASU student? And what we're finding a lot with the Starbucks program is that we're getting people who started college and dropped out. A lot of times for circumstances outside of their control, but then coming back into the system, almost impossible barrier. So if you're working as a barista in Starbucks, it is not easy for you to go back to college. So what do? We make it possible for you to go back to college. So those are some examples of the kinds of things that we do. I also want to highlight, especially given the conversation this afternoon about lifelong learning and preparing people for futures that are lengthy and evolving, ASU has set up a new unit within the university called the Learning Enterprise. And the focus of the Learning Enterprise is on what we call universal learning. So cradle to grave, looking at the entire lifetime of the learning needs of our students. So the second aspect of our charter was research and discovery of public value. We have grown significantly. We are one of the fastest growing universities in terms of research expenditures, especially for universities that don't have medical schools. Why is this chart interesting and important? It means that we are investing in research and doing research at a very, very accelerating pace. It means we're producing more knowledge. We're getting people to really focus on problem solving in ways that we could not do not so long ago. How do we do that? Part of the challenge, of course, is to get the people who can do that, is to make the university attractive for really talented people. And we have been able to do that. So out of the 4,700, about 3,500 are research faculty. The rest are teaching faculty. And you can see that we've been able to attract some people who find the ASU experience interesting enough to want to come here. This leads to groundbreaking research in a lot of different areas. Applied areas, there's basic science, but there is also transferring that knowledge into meaningful ways for society to take advantage of it. So it isn't discovery for the sake of discovery, it's discovery to advance solutions. One of the ways we do this is by creating a system that allows for interdisciplinary research. So ASU has 25 interdisciplinary schools and 160 plus initiatives, centers, institutes that allow people to do interdisciplinary work. So this is where the acceleration in research productivity comes, when people are able to do research across disciplinary boundaries. Because none of society's big problems today can actually be solved from a single disciplinary perspective. It also allows us to offer programming then that's interesting. When an English professor is working with a space scientist, you're able to offer students a completely different experience than if they were in either of those two disciplines. So the third piece of our charter is engaging the community. We want to make sure that our students have exposure and experience. So a lot of effort is made to make sure that they have industry partners, not-for-profit partners, spend a lot of time locally and globally. Some of it is coursework, some of it is volunteer, some of it is study abroad, projects, etc. We work extensively with partners. I shared with you the Starbucks example. We don't have time to go into all the other examples, but we have over 500 corporate partners who engage at different levels because we know that we can't solve these problems on our own. We need the resources, we need the ideas, we need the support and the technologies offered by these partners. We also recognize the need for universities to collaborate. So the PLUS Alliance is a collaboration between ASU, King's College London, and the University of New South Wales in Australia. The University Innovation Alliance is an 11 public university alliance in the United States, working together on issues of inequity in higher education. So it's really aggressively looking for partners to move us forward. Just a quick overview of global engagement. We're a university based in Arizona, the United States, but really finding ways to engage the global community. We take our role as stewards of economic success seriously. I don't want to go into the details of these statistics, but we meticulously measure our contribution to the state. As a public university that is preparing its young people for the future, how are we making a difference? Now, all of this work, I've given you some quick highlights, has allowed us to land in the #1 spot for innovation in the United States 5 years in a row. It's not the #1 that's important, but it is the idea that we have to be relentless to get there because we are also the largest public university. How can we continue to be the largest public university and be the #1 in innovation? That's the bar that we are trying to reach. So some takeaways then, keys to our transformation is really having a clear sense of purpose. The charter provides that purpose. It gives us sort of a North Star when we make decisions. That's who we are trying to be. The innovation mindset, I gave you some examples. We're very deliberate about design. I gave you examples. We have also benefited from the leadership of Dr. Michael Crow. He has been our president for 17 years and has provided incredibly steady, visionary leadership that has allowed the institution to take on some really radical reform. And then we don't leave things to chance. We spend a lot of time and energy developing leaders across the length and breadth of the institution so that future generations of leaders at ASU know how to carry forward the work that we are doing, and that we build innovation into the DNA of the institution. So this is what most of us at ASU wake up worrying about and go to sleep worrying about. How can we become an engine of social transformation and economic success? Yes, we have made progress, but as all of our speakers today have pointed out, it's not fast enough. There's just more work to do. And our commitment then is that we will relentlessly focus on innovating our way into the future. We recognize that there is no other way to solve the problems of our time. So that is ASU, and I hope we will have some time for some conversations later this afternoon. Thank you.